Thank you, thank you. And thank you all for staying. I know it's beer o'clock for most people now, so good afternoon and thank you. So our panel today, Rejected Genius, why the best ideas often die in the pitch room and how to get them to market. So as marketeers, we know better than anyone the kind of the creative graveyard. We've watched brilliant campaigns be rejected by kind of skeptical clients. We've seen line managers kind of turn a blind eye to these great ideas. We've seen daring concepts diluted until they're unrecognizable. And we've witnessed innovation die in the boardroom because someone said, that's not how we do things around here. So I think we can all relate to that. But here's the thing. Those rejected ideas are quite often the ones with the power to really make that change, to grab attention, shift perceptions, and drive real results if only they survive the pitch. So today's panel is about unpicking that, understanding why these ideas fail, why they potentially die in that pitch room, and more importantly, why we as marketeers, or what we as marketeers can do to get them to market. So I'm Rory, the CMO at GymNation, ex-Paddy Power and Gymbox. I'm joined here by two great creative minds. We've got Mikey, who I always say is the kind of creative genius behind the biggest fitness brand in the world right now, Gymshark. And we've got Ruth from Surreal, who are the most disruptive cereal brand kind of going. And I think everyone knows their kind of viral campaigns and daring strategies. So big thank you for coming today to talk about this topic. So we'll start with you, Mikey. Let's get straight into it.
Oh, God. Go on.
So look, Gymshark have essentially built a kind of community first approach as opposed to the kind of big budget campaigns, which was really unique at the time. You sit around a table with kind of the board and the CMOs. How do you go about getting these ideas to market, and what can we kind of learn from that? What's the approach?
God, yeah. I mean, we're 13 years old, so just reached our kind of teenage years this year, and we absolutely started. I mean, very small, kind of famously small, kind of 19-year-old in his garage. And I guess sort of by accident rather than design, we became this kind of community brand, or, a brand that, started influencer marketing. I think that has definitely stayed with us in terms of, I guess, a filter for ideas and getting them made is that we started as a brand where kind of community was either involved or community was part of the, the creative ideation and everything that we did. And I think that kind of where that is now 13 years later is that that's still a filter in terms of, does this make sense from a community point of view? Are the community involved? How can we involve them in the activation? So I think it becomes a filter for ideas, and I think having a strong filter or a strong platform or purpose to ladder those ideas up to, for me, is always a way that to try and argue that they can't say no. I mean, if the idea and the concept that you're pitching does all of the things that you as a brand say you are and say you exist for, that is, for me, a way to get, to keep those ideas alive, really, because you can just argue that everything in this is supporting that purpose or is supporting that community. So yeah, the community piece is definitely like a filter that still exists in terms of like what's the scaffold around these ideas that make people go, yeah, that's sound, that's structurally sound, we can sign that off and say yes.
Yeah, it's your benchmark, isn't it? You can go to the soundboard that you go again.
For sure, yeah.
And how about you, Ruth? So like, I love Surreal. We worked together years ago. We did a few campaigns together. And I think the genius of Surreal is kind of that deadpan kind of humor and almost kind of poking fun at marketing itself. I think, similar to Mikey, like, how does a brand like Surreal with that kind of unique humor, how do you kind of get these crazy ideas through that approval process internally? Because some of the stuff that you guys do, I'm sure everyone agrees, Surreal, when you see it, you go, fucking hell, I wish we had done that.
I'm going to give an answer that I don't think anyone will like, which is we have an extremely long creative leash. It's really built into the very fabric of the brand. If you think about Surreal, it's kind of fun, childhood memories, nostalgia. We want to bring that back, but in a way that's built for adults. So we speak to adults like they are adults, and that's why we can get away with a lot of the tongue-in-cheek stuff, a lot of the really lazy stuff, the easiest way to convey messages for us, especially if it's not something super exciting, nobody really cares if you just launched in co-op, or your audience might not. The easiest way to say that is, hey, my boss just told me to post that we've launched in the co-op. And it's really just completely segueing there's not that much creativity in it. It's just saying what it is, and it's very much kind of built into the fabric of the brand.
But I guess, again, you see a lot of copycats now. I think you guys are really the first to kind of push that kind of narrative and push that. And I think that's just a testament to kind of the stuff that you guys are pushing through that approval process. I think it was similar when we kind of at Paddy Power and Gymbox, it was that culture that you have internally. So at Paddy Power, we were really known for this kind of mischievous marketing, disruptive campaigns that you really towed a line. And I think the success that we had there was, it was almost ideas first. So for example, Stuart Kenny, who was one of the founders at the time, obviously now we get in this position where you have to pitch stuff to make sure the legal team are happy before you get it out to market. But in Paddy Power, it was different. It was almost, we had the idea, and we gave the legal team 2 hours to convince us that idea shouldn't happen. And if they couldn't convince us, we'd basically go live with it in the market. And so we completely flipped the kind of the narrative on that. And then it kind of was similar in Gymbox, in taking those kind of, that mantra in. And Gymbox, again, is kind of a brand that really towed the line. And sometimes you don't know where that line is. But I think it's about trusting your gut feeling. But then also knowing what's too far, and is this idea actually too far and should it be rejected? And there's probably a few, maybe we'll come on to them later, ideas that should have been rejected that I look back in hindsight and think maybe we shouldn't have done that. But I do think, even some of the stuff we did at Gymbox, and my ex-CEO is in the room, so I've got to be careful what I talk about now. But, I remember one example where we gave out thousands of condoms, one of the last ones we did, if you remember, Mark. And we gave out thousands of condoms at a fresher fair, and we had the idea to kind of together. And last minute, so 3 days after handing out thousands of condoms, we then, on Friday evening at about 5 o'clock, we had this idea where we did product recall on the condoms on Instagram. And we said, we need to, please don't use these condoms. We turned comments off on Instagram, and then we went home for the weekend. Didn't look at Instagram, and I just remember we got so many complaints. The ASA came after us. Thankfully I was leaving, so I didn't mind that one. But maybe that should have been. I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't have been a rejected idea, but certainly one I'm proud of. So Mikey, coming back to you. Go back to the actual question here.
I'm thinking condoms, dildos. You guys have all the fun campaigns.
Sorry,
what have I got?
I could talk a bit longer on all these, but look, coming back to the room, because I think we're all really interested to know you're sitting around the board, you've got great CMO in Noel, you've got a whole team at Gymshark. We all see the outside, the amazing campaigns. Mm-hmm. How do you actually go about getting that idea to market? How do you do it?
So I was thinking about this question yesterday on the way here. I actually kind of came up with 4 Ps. One of them is presentation, and I think that is kind of something that I've definitely learned of. Earlier in my career, I would sort of shoot out that thought, and that doesn't really help. I mean, occasionally you can just say, here's the idea, but what I try to do now is I understand the idea better than anyone else in the room, so I can break it down sort of step by step, really, 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 really slowly. Also try and create a mood when I'm presenting something. I presented an idea that involved the Spice Girl recently, and played Wannabe when people were walking in the room. I've got a Christmas idea that I'm pitching in 2 weeks, and I've ordered some Quality Street, to have on the table. I like to kind of create a mood. I think the other big thing is the platform thing that I've mentioned. Understanding who you are and why you as a brand exist, and ensuring that the ideas really kind of ladder up to that is key. You've mentioned Noel Mack, our incredible CMO. I think the personalities is the other P that I've got in terms of having a really good relationship. And I know you had one with Mark. I know you've got the same with your founders. I think having that kind of relationship of trust in that person is kind of key to getting those ideas made. And quite often I'll grab a decision maker before the presentation and have a coffee or a chat and kind of warm them up to it.
Bribe them.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I think there's no sort of easy answer to that. I think it's always in a kind of combination of things, and there's a million different things that will be out there trying to kill your idea. But yeah, just being as prepared as you possibly can in terms of the presentation, kind of warming those people up and ensuring that the idea that you're about to present is something that the brand kind of can't say no to, or that makes sense from every kind of metric.
And you think there's an element as well of like longevity, because I know, for example, when I first started out, when you're going into these kind of boardrooms and you're pitching, you're kind of new, you're fresh. There's probably a little bit of hesitance, like, is this guy, legitimate, or what's his reputation like? And I know, and again, you got to be mindful of the people in the room. But I think at the beginning, maybe some of my ideas didn't get through. Yeah. But then, 6-7 years later, when I was in there, there was just that reputation that he's going to nail it. And I think there's an element of, as you prove yourself over time, that you can be in that kind of room and go, look, guys, I know this is going to work. Yeah. Let's just get it to market. There must be something in that, right?
I think the other thing, and you guys are particularly good at it, I think, is that consistency piece. So yes, you've been there for a long amount of time. Once you start getting those ideas made and through, it's addictive, right? People want to believe in the idea. They want to believe in you. And I think once you've started getting those hits out there, those campaigns that are successful, the brand then expects and kind of wants more. I think you can probably speak more to that, because I feel like you guys are like, there's something new from you guys every fortnight. You guys are like rapid fire.
Oh yeah,
I consistency.
think having the social proof that nothing bad is going to happen if you put something out there that doesn't land a really lofty message. It's like not everything has to do everything. It can do one thing really well, and you pick your moment to get your other message in there.
Yeah, and I say this quite a lot. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're just kind of peddling gym memberships or cereal or clothing. Like, it's not the end of the world. We're not trying to cure cancer here. Yeah. Like, if something doesn't land, again, as long as you're not doing something that's going to damage your reputation, if it doesn't land, it doesn't land. You just kind of go on to the next one. It's
really difficult when you're in that brand world, isn't it? Yeah. Because it's sort of all you see, and I think you kind of need to remind people, like, name a brand, Hovis Bread. Like, what was the last Instagram post or campaign you saw from Hovis Bread or the AA or from Fanta Orange? And you understand, you think about your brand like it's this super precious thing, but actually you're existing in a world where there's all of these brands talking, and actually it's more detrimental to not be putting out the stuff, or just to be putting out bland stuff. If it causes a little bit of controversy, then I'm here for it.
It's not a bad thing. And then, Ruth, what do you think about that? So, for example, as a challenger brand that you are, like, how do you know if it's just good for attention versus if it's kind of good for that kind of long-term kind of brand equity or kind of that long-term brand loyalty? How do you know if it's just a kind of attention-seeking one, or do you guys talk about that? Do you think about it?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, firstly, I love attention. I would do pretty much anything for it, and kind of carry that through into the brand as well. Like I said earlier, I think not everything has to do everything. So if you think about an idea or a campaign, if you think about a Venn diagram, one side you've got the attention, the other side you've got your message or whatever you're wanting to do. If it sits in the middle of that Venn diagram, it's gold dust. Push it through, throw the money there, don't stop until it gets done. But it's also about being honest from the start when you're bringing that idea to the table, being like, if we can lock in 1 million views, if we can get people talking. You see brands like Liquid Death, they go so hard on their crazy gothic Travis Scott's blood, somebody's blood, and you remember them. If you think about canned water, you probably think about Liquid Death, and that's what they've done. That's their strategy, is get as much attention as possible. So I think with that, it's like, if you can explain it to somebody, the litmus test for is it a good idea to do well on attention is grab your friend who is an accountant or works in insurance, explain it to them. It should feel easy to explain. If it sits well, if they get it, they don't have to laugh. Not every idea has to be funny. Yeah. But if they understand it, they're like, oh, I can't wait to see it. If they've got questions to ask, then you're probably onto something.
Yeah. And I think as well, there's an element around, as a brand, we expect that from you, because there's a lot of brands out there that will try and do something that doesn't stay true to their kind of their tone or their overall brand. And we talk about it kind of at Gymbox quite a bit when we were there. It's kind of like, would people expect us to do this? It just comes naturally, which I think is good. So we all got 5 minutes? 2 minutes? I'll keep going. So look, again, we talked about how to get stuff kind of past the board and our bosses. But again, we've kind of challenged your brands. Like I talk about 9 out of 10 my ideas never see the light of day. Like they just don't get there. Do you guys have any kind of like, just kind of share with the guys as a kind of final question, any rejected ideas that haven't seen the light of market that you want to share?
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
I can go first. I'll probably have to flip your question. Like I said, we have a very long creative leash. There's 14 people in our whole business, and we're 3.5 years old. So we're probably much younger than you guys at Gymshark. And probably say one that we maybe shouldn't have done that we did do was putting sex toys in cereal boxes.
Oh, yeah.
So you know when you're a kid and it's so exciting, you empty out your box of Cocoa Pops and there's a spoon topper or a bouncy ball in there. We make cereal for grown-ups, so who better than to partner with than Love Honey and, yeah, chuck a vibrator in 1,000 boxes.
So before you come on your room, can I just ask, right, when you're sitting in that room, how do these conversations happen? Does someone just go, I've got an idea. I was up late last night, and how do they come about?
Toys and boxes had always been something we wanted to do, but we had to think of a smarter, more different way to do it. We were launching honey nut flavor, bouncing around ideas, sitting on a whiteboard, and Love Honey Nut is where it was born from. And I will say that idea got poo-pooed for probably 18 months before we were allowed to make it happen.
Yeah.
And it did happen.
You just keep fighting for it.
Yeah.
Keep fighting for your idea. And Mikey, any of your ideas that haven't come around?
I just want to say, I know you said you probably shouldn't have happened, but I did love that idea. So like,
yeah,
kudos to you for even getting that out. There's a few in my head, and I don't necessarily want to tell you, because like one of the things I really believe about ideas that get rejected is it might be a no now, but it's a yes later. Like you have to protect those ideas, fight for them, and persevere with them. I'm making a Christmas thing that I've been trying to do for the last 3 years, 3 Christmases. This is Christmas number 4 at the brand that I'm hopefully about to get it done this year. So I don't want to tell everyone in the room those ideas, because I do save them up. One thing that's definitely not going to get made is, well, sort of half got made. It was a kind of social kind of content series about protein tubs. Anyone here ever got a tub of protein powder? And you'll know that the little scoop is always at the bottom, covered in the powder. So we got an 8-foot protein tub made, and we were going to make a game show called Scoops, I Hit It Again, where people would have to actually dig through a sort of human-sized giant tub of protein. Never got made. The actual protein tub did get made. So we have an 8-foot tub of protein in the office. If anyone's ever looking for somewhere to, I don't know, store crude oil or whatever, it's got a massive giant tumbler. But yeah, that never got made, and it probably never will, sadly.
Well, unless anybody wants to take that idea, I'm sure we can give you a little bit of
it's yours.
Backhander.
Exactly. If anyone is here from My Protein or Optimum Nutrition, you have that.
They can have it.
Free.
They can have it. All right. I think we're pretty much out of time, but because there's no one here. Oh, he's there. Shit. I was just going to say, do we have time for one or two questions? If anybody wants one. One. Okay, only one. We got one question. Oh, there's a hand up there. Yeah. How do you deal with legal? Don't tell them. That was kind of our process. As I said, my mantra was always, you've got to prove to us that we can't do it rather than the other way around. And if you can't give me a valid argument, we're just going to do it. But again, I had a great CEO at Gymbox and Paddy Power. It's a culture thing for us. And
totally
I don't know about you guys, but it's a culture thing. It's like, how much of a risk are we as a brand or as a business willing to take? And what can go wrong if we get it wrong?
Yeah.
And then I think it goes back to people, right?
Yeah, I think it'll really vary. I was at 3, the mobile network, before Gymshark, and our legal team said, we're here to defend you. You guys are here to create. Whereas at Gymshark, I think we're probably a little bit more conservative on bits and pieces. Yeah, it all just depends on the business and culture, I think.
Yeah. I love a cease and desist letter. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Me too.
Yeah, so with that, thank you so much. This guy's going to shoot me out of a go. So thank you for watching.